talk, alhamdulillah, and as you know, that shows his dedication and his enthusiasm to impart the knowledge that he has to the students and the brothers in the UK. The talk is going to continue up until 7:30, because straight afterwards he's going to go to Brixton and do another talk for an hour, after an hour of a talk before an hour now. So inshallah we're going to begin. The topic is in line with our fiqh of marriage, or fiqh of the family series. Today's topic is going to be about raising children, and inshallah all of us, we've either got kids or we're going to have kids, and it's important to know what does the Quran and the Sunnah say concerning raising kids or dealing with teenagers as well. Some of you are young and you're still at home as children, so you can benefit from it from the other angle, how you should be towards your parents as well. So without too much delay, I'll leave it for the Shaykh Mufti Muhammad ibn Munir. Jazakallah khair.
Somebody please move that chair. Move that chair.
So you're not gonna lie, boy? So you don't listen to me, so... Hey. قرب. Oh, type. Testing. Bismillah. Bismillah, testing. It's good. Okay. Got you, Sheikh. Sorry. No. Clear. Allahu Akbar. Subhanallah.
Everybody please put your cell phones off. No disturbances, inshallah.
أهلا الله شيخ الله المستعان أخي سبحان الله. How you feeling, man? We missed you out. What's going on? You good?
We're good. You feeling okay?
Yeah, I'm good. It's good.
Sure.
Yeah, barakallah. Good to see you. Some brothers had said some words.
Some words about me?
Yeah, I didn't say no names. I tried to, defend your honor though. I did defend your honor. حياك الله. كيف حالك؟ تمام؟ You good?
Alhamdulillah.
What's the issue?
I stayed for a while.
The cord? I don't know. Move it out the way. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على عبده ورسوله نبينا وإمامنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. With regards to raising children, how to raise children and how not to raise children, and how to cope and deal with teenagers, and how not to cope and deal with teenagers. A very important topic and a very broad topic. But I think that the title itself and how we address the title and how we engage the title in itself, we've already shot ourselves in the foot or the feet. We've already handicapped ourselves when we say dealing with teenagers, coping with teenagers. All right? And I'm sure you've heard the different talks, the different lectures. I'm sure there are many books that have been translated and books in Arabic on the light that is shed upon the ayah. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara waquduha an-nas wal hijara ila akhir al-ayah. Allah says, "O you who believe, qu anfusakum, save yourselves. Protect yourself from Allah's wrath. Make for yourself some type of plan and strategy for that horrible day that's going to come, that time which is going to be great terror and great fear." And that's just Yawm al-Qiyamah. That's not actually the fire of hell. Save yourselves. Make some type of realistic and feasible plan to guard yourself from Allah's wrath, upon which you have no sabr. There is no patience that you have with the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You may have punishment with the punishment, or you may have patience with the punishment of mankind. You can deal with it, you can avoid it, you can suck up the pain. You can overcome it, you can endure it, right? You can outlast. But not the punishment of Allah Azza wa Jal. Like that Muslim who was in a battle, he was fighting in the cause of Allah, and one of the worst things that can happen to a warrior or a soldier happened to him. One of the worst things. That's not injury, that's not death, that's not defeat and humiliation of defeat. Nah. One of the worst things to happen to someone who's fighting, Muslim or not, is to be captured by the enemy. This is one of the most dreaded things of a soldier in a soldier's mind, to be captured. Because when you're captured, you don't know what's going to happen to you. Are they going to punish you? Squeeze information and intelligence out of you? Are they going to try to buy you and get you to defect? Are they going to kill you? Are they going to violate your sacredness, your manhood? You don't know. Because you tried to in their lives and you couldn't. And now they've taken you captive and you ask for mercy and for respect and for honor. Why should we do this? So when you were on the battlefield attempting to end our lives, it doesn't really make sense, right? There was no mercy when we were fighting each other. There was no Geneva Convention when we were fighting each other. Now you want that now. It's one of the worst things that can happen to a soldier or a warrior. Let alone the fact that it doesn't stop there, it gets even worse. Because if they capture you and they don't torture you and they let you go, they release you and they free you, the first thing that people want to think about when you get back to your side of your camp is what, Abdul Qabi? Did he what? Is he still our guy or what? Or their guy? Is he a traitor? Is he a spy? Everyone understand this? Did they buy him out? How did they let him go so quickly? He has no scratches on him. He survived. He's not skinny. He's not famine. He did well in the prison. What did he tell them? So people have bad thoughts about you. So one of the worst things that can happen to you is to be captured by the enemy. And it's a proven fact. Muslim and non-Muslim. So this Muslim, he was captured. And obviously, back in those days, as we said, there was no Geneva Convention. There was no set of rules of what you could and couldn't do with a captive or a prisoner of war. It was whatever they wanted to do. Make you drink alcohol, force you to eat the flesh of swine, force you to commit fornication and adultery, force you to renounce your Islam, to curse the Quran, whatever they wanted to do. Torture you, punish you. And if you read the books of history, we all know how amazing the human mind is. But it's not always amazing for good. Human beings are very cruel. Very, very cruel, very malevolent creatures. And from that which proves that is the different torture devices and techniques and methods of torture that have been made over the centuries. Read. Some stuff you won't even believe is possible for someone to think about to make you experience pain. So this is a reality. So he doesn't know what these non-Muslims are going to do to him. All right? So they captured him and they put him in a jail cell. And obviously they tried to humiliate him and mock him and make fun of him. And, you know, we'll give you something to drink, but it's khamr. All right? You're thirsty, right? You got to be thirsty. But we'll give you alcohol. That's all we have is wine. You're hungry. You have to be starving. All we have is pork for you. And he refused. If you want to get out, no problem. Accept the cross or the crucifix or our gods or whatever the case may be. You're tired, you want to sleep, but you have to make zina with this prostitute, and then we'll let you go to sleep. Whatever the case is. So they put him in a jail. And the narration says that the only thing that the man had in the jail was he had basically like a candle. And he had a flint or some type of match or some way of lighting a candle. So the man, he sat in the jail cell and he was very hungry. He was very cold. It was extremely damp and dark. He was shivering. He's in a real bad state now. And the guards are outside and says, listen, whenever you want something to eat, let us know. We'll feed you. But it has to be the flesh of swine. If you want something to drink, we'll give you alcohol. No problem. If you want to get out of jail, you want some respect, you want to be treated in a humane way, no problem. But you have to get rid of your religion. And you have to become a Christian or a polytheist, whatever the case they wanted from him. So no matter how strong he was as a physical warrior, how strong he was as a spiritual warrior, he's a human being. And one of the worst things, one of the worst ways of dying is dying of starvation. That's a proven fact. One of the most horrible ways of dying of death is to die from starvation. And if you talk to anyone who's ever been a captive or in a concentrated camp or whatever happened to him, a humanitarian crisis, you do not want to feel the pain of starvation. So he was getting hungry. He was getting thirsty. He was getting cold. He was shivering. He was getting sick. And he was beginning to mentally and physically break down. And it's permissible for me to say some act of kufr or a statement of kufr because I'm forced to. It's permissible to eat the flesh of swine because I'm forced to. It's permissible to drink wine because I'm forced to. It's permissible. I have to preserve myself. But he said, no, I'm not going to give them the satisfaction. I'm not going to give them the laugh that they want from the Muslims and to show that the Muslims are weak. I'm not going to turn in. So every time he started to think and feel weak and giving in, and he blanked out and blacked out, fell, he woke back up. And he took the light or the candle, the match, whatever he had, and he lit it. And he looked at the candle, and he looked at the candle. And he said to himself, La sabra laka ala hadha. He put his finger near the candle, his hand on the candle, and he says, you don't have the patience to put your hand over this candle. You don't have the patience to put the candle to your face. You do not have the ability to overpower your nerves upon the small flame of a candle. So if you have no sabr upon a candle's flame or a match's flame, how much sabr will you have upon a fire which is fueled through men and stones? A fire, kullama khabat zidnahum. Allah says every time the fire goes out and is extinguished, zidnahum sa'ira. We give them even more fire to burn with. Kullama nadijat juluduhum badalnahum juludan ghayraha liyadhuqa al-adhab. Allah says every time their skins are too crispy, we give them new skins. We give them a new nervous system. And that in itself is considered to be a scientific miracle in the Quran. In sahha ta'bir. In sahha ta'bir. Ala ijazul ilmi. Alright? And we know that there are things in the Quran that prove this. Because the thing which allows you to feel is nothing more than the nervous system. And if a person experiences a third-degree burn or bad burn, his skin and his flesh isn't as tender as someone who hasn't experienced that burn. Your nerves are gone. The nervous system, your nerves are destroyed there. So you can do this, it doesn't hurt you anymore. If you get stitches, right? You have a bad cut, your skin doesn't grow back the same. So Allah said this, and He sent this Quran down to the Prophet over 1400 years ago when people had no clue about the nervous system and about the epidermis and the skin and the different levels and layers of the skin. But we're not here to talk about that right now. That's just a side faida. Allah says that when their skins go, they're burnt, He says we replace them with new skin for them to taste the punishment. So the man, he knew this, is that if I cannot have the patience to put my hand over this small, minute candle, what patience will I have meeting Allah and I renounce my deen because of a little bit of hunger, or I was cold, or I was, wounded and they didn't want to treat my wound and give me the necessary medicine. So just think about this now. Allah says, protect yourself and make for yourself a realistic plan for something that you have no patience upon. When you touch a hot plate, what's the first thing you do? You think about how hot it is, right? No, you don't. You don't think about how hot the plate is, right? There is no thinking whatsoever. You immediately, instinctively do what? You drop it. Your body thinks for you. Your body does what? It thinks for you. Everyone understand this? Instinct. So something that's hot, something that's blazing, there is no sabr upon that. You can be sabr upon someone beating you, hitting you, right? You can have some sabr upon that. It can be a little tough. Suck it up. But you can never ever be patient upon what? Upon what? Ikhwan? Heat. Let alone fire. And that proves that is the plate. Your body doesn't what? You don't think when it's cold outside. Do you have to think to shiver and to get goosebumps? Your body does it what? For you. Everyone understand this? There's no sabr upon heat. Everyone understand this? So Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, Qu anfusakum, save yourselves, i.e., give yourselves and make for yourselves a realistic plan, which may not work. But at least do what? Give yourself a realistic plan to protect yourself from this place, from this day, from this creature of Allah Azza wa Jalla that knows no mercy. From this creature of Allah Azza wa Jalla which is greedy and has an insatiable appetite for more denizens. Do we understand what this means? The hellfire would say, Hal min mazid. Oh Allah, is there any more that you can give me? Do we understand this? I don't think we understand this with these verses of the Quran. I don't think we really know what Allah is saying to us. On that day, the fire will beg for more people. It's not an average fire. So you have no sabr upon this fire. So the most logical thing to do is to make for yourself some type of realistic plan to keep yourself from that horrid, horrible place. And that's not it. It doesn't stop it doesn't stop there. And Allah says, wa ahlikum, and also your ahl, your al, your seeds, your children, your wife or your wives, your family, your relatives. Save them as well. Try your best to make for them a realistic plan, a realistic strategy for something that they have no patience upon. The worst thing that can happen to a mother is to see her child being tortured and punished. That's the worst punishment. That's why one of the worst things that can happen to a mother is for the child to get sick. Parents can deal with sickness. You have the flu, you have a cold, you have cancer, you have this, you don't have food, but when your baby won't stop crying. Anyone have children in this room? No. Your baby won't stop crying. Your baby won't go to sleep. Your baby won't drink. Your baby won't eat. Your baby has a hot fever. You can be patient upon the fever. You can rough it out, but the baby can't. And the mother, only Allah knows how much punishment she experiences just by seeing her baby up at night, can't sleep in the daytime. And the doctors don't know what's going on. They don't know what's wrong. It's the worst thing that can happen. So to know that your child is going to suffer, your mother, your father, your daughter is going to suffer, that in itself is pain in itself. And that's a great deal of torture in itself. Let alone if you and your family are both in the fire of hell. So the only logical thing is for us to make a realistic plan to protect ourselves from this place upon which we cannot begin to imagine. We can't begin to imagine what the fire of hell is like. May Allah protect us therefrom. So therefore, it's not a joke and it's not a game. The concept of being a Muslim, being pious and being righteous, the concept of eating from the halal and avoiding the haram, the concept of being consistent upon the rulings of the deen, it isn't a joke, it isn't a game. And the same applies to your family. However, this is only one step, because most people, when they think about this ayah, or they think about this concept, they only think about small children, babies, raising children, having children. But now what do I do when my son is 14 years old or 16 years old, or my daughter is 17 years old and I don't have as much control over them? I don't have an existing relationship with them. He's buck wild. She's gone, lost. Every day I turn around, my son has a new tattoo, a new girlfriend. Every week I'm going down to the jail, bailing my son out, putting in a good word, using my clout and my name to get my son out of trouble. He doesn't want to pray. She doesn't want to cover herself. I know that she's listening to music, talking to boys, and all the haram acts, smoking and drinking and hanging out. How can I save them now? And they're gone. It's 5 years old. It's easy, simple. 6 years old, 2 years old, easy, simple. But now what about teenagers? What about teenagers? So the whole concept of raising children, the whole concept of tarbiyah Islamiyah is based off of this ayah. And we all know what the pious predecessors said about this verse. Many of them, they would say, "Allimuhum wa adibuhum," or "Adibuhum wa allimuhum." They would say, discipline them, teach them adab, and educate them. Teach them the deen and teach them how to behave. But how can you teach someone how to behave when they're bigger than you now? Just as tall as you, just as strong as you, stronger than you. This is a reality. Your 17-year-old son now looks down on you. You can't just, put him in a corner and take something away from him. He may physically do harm to you now. I'm not afraid of you. I have my own money, or mom gives me money. I don't need your money, Abby. Why should I listen to you anymore? Now what? This is a reality. So what do you do then? Are you not still responsible for them at that time? As I just said to you, the title in itself, which wasn't necessarily the title of the lecture, but how people did coping and dealing with teenagers, that in itself is problematic. You shouldn't cope with a teenager. And you shouldn't have to deal with a teenager. Rather, you should live with your teenage sons and daughters, or stepsons and stepdaughters, in light of the Prophet ﷺ's statement. In the authentic hadith, the narration of Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, in which the Prophet ﷺ is quoted to have said, "Man lam yarham saghirana wa ya'rif haqqa kabirina falaysa minna." As is found in the Sunan of Imam Abu Dawood, the Prophet ﷺ says, those who don't have mercy upon the young, those who don't show mercy to the youth, those who don't show mercy to the small, and those who don't show respect and regard for the old or the big or the seniors or the elders, falaysa minna, then they aren't from us. They are not from us, meaning they're doing something that's really bad. If the Prophet ﷺ says that you're not from me, falaysa minni or laysa minna, man ghashana falaysa minna, man hamala alayna silaha falaysa minna, man raghiba an sunnati falaysa minni or laysa minna, it's something that's serious that you're leaving off. So the Prophet ﷺ, he used two main words in this hadith. Number one, yarham, mercy. And he never said coping. He never said dealing. He said having mercy. And number two, he says ya'rif, to know, and not just know, because obviously the teenager knows that his father came before him. You know that your father built the house. You know that your father sent you to college. You know that your father came to the United Kingdom and he couldn't read. He was illiterate. He came on a boat. He sacrificed everything that he had. He had a debt for 30 years from back home just so you can have a good British education. You know that. But you have to acknowledge it. Acknowledge it. And act in accordance with what your father has done for you. The Prophet ﷺ, he used these two words, mercy, and he used acknowledgement. Everyone understand the difference? So coping with a teenager is, we exist in the same house, and I'm just barely getting by with you. I'm dealing with you, how to cope with you. But how about me and my teenage son? We are friends. Even though I'm older than him, even though I've disciplined him, I've raised him, I'm in control, I'm in charge, but he's still my friend. Why can't he be my friend? Or why can't I be the person that he comes and confides to? The very first person that he comes to when there's something wrong, or he needs to tell someone a really, really intimate secret, is not this one and that one, but me. Why not? Why can't it be an issue of, I respect you, son. I don't agree with your decision, but I respect you. The sheer fact that you have enough courage to not want to do what I did and how I made a living, that's a good thing. You're not a coward. You have strength. I respect you. I don't think it's a good idea, but I respect you. Let's talk about it. Let's sit down. If you come up with a better idea, bismillah. Why can't that be the relationship with the teenager? And why does the relationship has to be coping and dealing with? This is a big problem. And this comes from the way that we think, all right? Being the friend of your son, the friend of your daughter, being there for your friend, being there for your daughter, humbling yourself, getting rid of some of your ego, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, perhaps that's a step towards the positive. And the same applies to your daughter. Your daughter should have a relationship with you as a father and as a mother. She should be the one that she says, I want to get married to first. And I think Brother Fulan's cute, Abby. I think I want to get married at a young age. What do you think, Abby, if I get married? And not her girlfriends, or not someone in the street, or someone on the internet. You should have that relationship with your children and your teenagers for them to feel comfortable to talk to you, even if it's a little uncomfortable. And even if it's a bit, embarrassing. What's the problem, son? I used to be 16 years old. There's nothing that can happen to you that I didn't hear before. Bismillah, spit it out. Tell me, what you going through? You have a problem with this? You have a problem with that? What's the ruling on this? Is it permissible for me to do this? I have this issue going on, this happened to my body? Let me know. But obviously at 16 or 17 or 18, it's too late. These type of values and these principles, they have to be established and developed at a younger age. At a younger age. The Messenger of Allah, ﷺ, we all know one day he was offering the prayer, and the narration says that Hassan and Hussein jumped on his back, and they played on his back, and he allowed them to play on his back. And when he got up and he finished his prayer, he's quoted to have said, I saw these two, فَلَمْ أَصْبِرْ عَلَيْهِمَا. I didn't have the patience. Okay, my call. He says, I didn't have the patience. I let them play on me. I didn't have the ability to stop them from having fun. The salah. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, li ta'tammu bi, for you to follow me. Wa li ta'lamu salatakum, for you to know your prayer. Prayer is serious. Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli. Yet still he let the children have fun. He gave them a little extra time. He let them do things because it was a greater purpose and a greater wisdom. A greater purpose and a greater wisdom. Sit down. Don't come in the masjid. You can't wear red. The narration says, وَعَلَيْهِمَا قَمِيصَانِ أَحْمَرَانِ. They're wearing two red garments, which proves that men are allowed to wear red. That's not the topic of our discussion right now. What's important is that the Prophet ﷺ, he had a relationship with youngsters. We mentioned last night, Ya Aba Umair, ma fa'ala Nughayr. What did the Prophet ﷺ name his daughter? What was her name? She had a kunya, Kulthum. Everyone understand this? The Messenger of Allah ﷺ, what did he do with Ibn Abbas? Ya ghulam, inni mu'allimuka kalimatin. The Prophet, he didn't say, Ya walad, oh boy. He called him a young man. And Ibn Abbas barely had a beard. He was barely in puberty. But yet still he gave him honor, he gave him respect. What did the Prophet ﷺ do? How did he react with Usama ibn Zayd? Radiallahu anhuma? What did the Prophet ﷺ do with Anas? Radiallahu anhu? Anas said, for 10 years I served the Messenger of Allah ﷺ. And he never said, Lima, why? He never said, sucked his teeth or said, oof. He never did anything bad or complaint. Who can say that who's lived with you for 10 years? Who can say that? I will say from among us. You've been with me less than 10 years. Can you say you never seen me get angry before? Lose my temper? Wild out, as we say? Can you say that? That you've been with me? Can my wife say that? Can my mother say that? Can my sons, can my children say that Abby never lost his temper? For 10 years, he never lost his temper. And the only time he beat us or disciplined us or put us on punishment was for our benefit and not for his own anger. And that's a major problem in itself. Many parents who physically discipline their children or punish them without physical discipline and punishment, they only do it out of revenge. And they only do it because of their own ego. They don't discipline the child for the purpose of the child's benefit, because they let the child run crazy and do whatever they want to do and say whatever they want to do. Or they let their teenagers do whatever they want to do. And they turn a blind eye, knowing that his son is sleeping with women, knowing that he has girlfriends, dangling them around like keys on a keychain. It's known. But he has a baby, or he sleeps with the wrong girl, with a powerful father. Now he wishes to punish his son now, right? But it's too late. And not only is it too late, but brothers and sisters, he's only punishing him for his own revenge. I told you to listen to me. I told you don't take that girl as your girlfriend. Take another one. Make zina with her. Not her. I told you this. Leave her alone. Her father is such and such. So he's only punishing him for his own intiqam al-nafs. And it's a huge problem. And if you discipline your son, or you teach your son, you educate him from an early age, you won't have to lash out at him. Women, brothers, they do this all of the time. They snap, they lose their temper, and then they grab the child. Sit down, didn't I tell you to listen to me? They're upset and they're angry. Everyone understand this? As we know, some narrations say, Allah alam, how authentic they are. Allahu alam, that Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, his prowess as a warrior was well known. He's from the greatest of Sahaba, from the most courageous companions. And he had physical strength as well. He was a great swordsman. He was fighting the mushrikeen once, and they say that one of the mushriks spat in his face. He spat him in his face, disrespect and humiliate him. And as Ali radiallahu anhu, the narration says, Allahu alam, how authentic it is, he drew his sword, he lifted up his sword to cut him down. And then in the middle of the stroke, he put down the sword. And he says, it wouldn't be for Allah. If I cut him with this sword, it will be because of what? He spat in his face. Everyone understand this? So this is a deep concept here in itself. Okay? Of how to deal with your children, how to raise your children before they become teenagers. But life isn't always perfect. Our lives, they aren't necessarily perfect. So what do we actually do when they aren't kids anymore? And qu anfusakum wa ahlikum is now really, really difficult. What do we do now? And how do we actually cope or deal with them? Even though we shouldn't be coping with them. And we shouldn't be dealing with them. We should be living with them. Everyone understand this? We should be what? We should be living with them. Everyone understand this? The great man, he said what? He said, I loved my father. He says, I loved my mother. And I respected my father. I never loved my father. Never. I only respected him. But I loved my mother. Why do you think he loved his mother more than his father? Because his mother would talk to him. His mother would listen to him. His mother would give him respect. His mother would stand up for him. His mother would hold his secrets. And the father would be, no, it's like this and it's like that. Why? Listen to me, and only my way will work. What I did when I was your age, that's exactly what you're going to do. Everyone understand this? So the concept of love and respect, or love versus fear. When he's a teenager and he goes through something, who's he going to come to? Who's going to find out the secret, the major problem that's going on in his life? Have to call his father or his mom? Without a question. And his dad going to be in utter darkness. And in most cases, the dad is not going to know and find out and tell us what? Too late. Everyone understand this? But despite the fact, what do we do now when it has happened? I messed up, all right? I was in jail. I was traveling. I wasn't doing the right thing. Or I wasn't a good Muslim. I was barely praying when you were younger. Now you're older. How do I deal with you and cope with you? Or what chance do I get at being your friend now that you're a grown man or a grown woman? First and foremost is that you have to realize is that adolescence or being a teenager is only a phase. It's a phase and it isn't permanent. So you have to have far vision as a believer. And you can't be short-sighted. You can't be narrow-minded. They're not going to be a teenager forever. Eventually they're going to turn 20. Then obviously the decisions that they make as a teenager will have an effect when they turn 20, of course. But the chemical imbalance, the psychological imbalance, the hormones, the haste, the rushing, the experiencing of life is only going to be limited. So if you know that it's limited, make your plan of dealing and coping limited. And don't think that your son is going to be like this forever. And don't think that your daughter is going to be like that forever. And it's one of the most important steps that experts mention in dealing with teenagers, is that it's only an age, a period of time. Everyone understand this? And oftentimes, they don't have to listen to you at that age. As long as you plant the seeds, as long as you impregnate their minds, give them the wisdom and the knowledge, show them the right way, and offer the path to them, then in many cases, they themselves will take the path. But later on, when they're ready, when they want to take the path after teenage years. Everyone understand this? My father told me many, many things when I was younger. My father's no longer living. He passed. He died of cancer. He's no longer here. But when my father was alive, he told me many, many things. And many of those things, I didn't listen to him. What are you talking about? What riddle are you saying now? What is this stuff? I didn't listen. And it took me many, many years to learn, oh man, subhanAllah, that's what he was talking about. I get it now. That's what he was trying to show me. That was the opportunity that he tried to allow me to take and utilize. That what he was explaining to me when I didn't want to listen to him. But alhamdulillah, as a grown man now, I still have learned and I've benefited. And his teachings were not of waste. They weren't in vain. Everyone understand this? So you can't be short-sighted. And oftentimes being short-sighted is based off of what I just said about your ego. You're going to listen to me when? Right now. And if you don't listen to me right now, then you're a bad son and I don't want anything to do with your life. Your son may go play basketball or soccer. Your son may not do the right thing. He may have a girlfriend. And then later on, a day will come and he says, Dad was right. Abby was right. This is haram. Let me leave this alone. Just do your job. That's all you have to do. You are not in charge of your son with regards to his soul and his spirit. You're in charge of enforcing the rules in the best way you can. You're in charge of instructing and giving advice. The Prophet of Islam, Laysa alayka hudahum. Allah says, guidance is not in your hand, O Muhammad. He couldn't guide his own uncle, who protected him, who looked after him, who was this close to being a Muslim. He knew that Tawheed was correct. He knew that Muhammad's way is correct. He knew that the way of Ismail was the right way. He knew that Hanafism was the true way and not the way of shirk and kufr. He knew this. But for one reason or another, Allah didn't give him the gift of guidance at all. He didn't give it to him. And Muhammad couldn't give it to him. So if that's Muhammad with his uncle, then what about you and your son? The next point is, after you know that it's only a phase, is to distinguish between behavior and the person. Distinguish between the teenager and teenage behavior. And they're two different things. The teenager is one thing, and the teenager is another thing. Somebody may do something or say something bad, but deep down inside, they're a good person. You know that they're a good person because you raised them. He has your flesh and your blood. You've seen before he was a teenager or early years of teenager, when he was a teenager. You know he's a good person, but he's going through a lot right now. So you have to distinguish between the two. I love you, son, and I always love you. You're my flesh and my blood, but I don't love this action. What you're doing isn't right. But you as a person, you're from me and I'm from you. Everyone understand this? But if you say that the behavior and the person are one, you make a bad decision, you don't listen to me, you don't obey me, you don't take my advice, all of the sacrifice that I made for you to get into the school, and you say you want to be a painter, you want to be a musician, I'm joining a rock band, and I give you the tuition to go to law school, I'll be a doctor. He says what? I want to do what? I want to be in a band, I'll be a rapper, or anything else. Everyone understand this? Whatever you want to be, huh? It's not just against rap and hip hop. That's a lecture in itself. Prejudice and racism is only bad if you're a rapper and hip hop, but rock music and cultural music, that's fine. Everyone understand this? We're not accepting that. And that's a big problem in the communities of the Muslims. Coming to masjid dressed like this is a teenager. Coming to masjid with jeans and a hoodie, he's a what? He's a thug. You can't come to masjid. That's wrong. And that's from the tricks of shaitan. What's important is that you have to distinguish between the behavior and the what? The person. Everyone understand this? Then obviously if it's too much bad behavior and taghlib, that's a different story. But he's just making some bad decisions doesn't mean he's actually a bad person or a bad girl. And if he is a bad person, perhaps it's a reflection of you. Everyone understand this or not? Number 3, or another point is what? Is you got to understand that people lie. People lie all of the time. But a lie is not always verbal. Sometimes someone lies with their actions. Someone lies with their tongue. They tell you something that's not true. Or somebody may tell you a lie with their actions. So my actions are, I don't have anything to do with you. You're not cool. You're not hip. You're stiff. You're old. You're outdated. I don't need you. I'm bigger and better. I'm faster. I'm the next, I'm the upgrade level of you, Pops, right? You're the old version. I'm better than you, right? I don't need you at all. This is what someone says with their actions. They don't want to hang out with their father. This happens even before the age of a teenager, right? What did Saeed say that day? Abby, I can walk what? I can walk across the street by myself. How old is Saeed? 11. He's not even a teenager yet. My son is 7. He says, Abby, I got it. Abby, I can do it by myself. In other words, I don't need you. I did need you when I was 5 or 6 or 9, but I don't need you anymore. This is natural. So oftentimes someone, they may say this or even act like that, but in actuality they're lying. They're not telling the truth. Rather, a teenager may make a bad decision or a poor decision, or they may be distant from you. In actuality, they want you and they need you. They want you and they need you. They need you for your guidance, but they don't know how to ask. They want you for the guidance, but last time you didn't want to give it. You didn't offer it, or you're too mean, or you're too harsh, or you're too short-sighted. Why does it only have to be one way, the way that you decide? So you have to realize that people lie in their actions, and it is your job as a parent to distinguish between a game, a front, and between what, Abu Isa? A reality. So the thing that we get from this is to always be there for your teenage children all the time. Let them tell you no. Let them say, no, I got it. Let them say, get out of my face. Let them get upset. Let them walk away from you. But you be there for them. Because in actuality, they're calling and they're begging for love and for attention. In actuality. And obviously that's a problem. Because if you raise your son or your daughter in a proper way, you give them the time and the attention. Very seldom when they act like this when they get older. Very seldom. Here and there, sporadically. But if you have a good relationship with your parents or your uncle or older brother, older sister, they won't be as bad. Everyone understand this? So we can see already, guys, is that a big part of this discussion and a big part of the fiqh of raising children and dealing and coping with teenagers is nothing more than a discussion of you being a good person yourself. You being a good person yourself and you humbling yourself and having ikhlas, sincerity. It's not about you listening to me. It's not about you obeying me, but it's about you doing the best thing that you can do. Whether it's how I did it or not. Everyone understand this? Another very important point is to understand that times change. Allah tells us in the Quran, وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. And those are the days that we give in men and exchange in return. نُدَاوِلُهَا. A day for you and a day against you. A day in which you're in charge and a day in which you're no longer there. A day in which you have your run, your turn, and a day in which others have their turns and their etc. Everyone understand this? So you got to realize that your son is not living in your era. Your daughter is not living in your era, let alone country. And that in itself is a major phenomenon. The mass migration to Western countries. This is not Bangladesh. It's not Somalia. This place is not Kenya. It's not Pakistan. It's not West Africa. This is the UK. This is America. This is Canada. What you're saying, Abby or Ummi, for Pakistan or for Jamaica or for South America is true. Sahih. But we're not where? In those countries anymore. Nor are we in those times. In the 70s, that was the best thing to do. No question. In the 80s, that was a good job to have. But it's 2018. That was 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 25 years ago. Things are different. And in lives, no doubt, times do change. And people with those times. Places and locations change. And with that, people do. The Prophet ﷺ in his behavior, the companions in their behavior in Mecca wasn't 101% consistent with that which of what? Of Medina. It's different. Minority versus majority. Mushrikun versus Jew. Polytheist versus munafiq. It's different. And the Prophet ﷺ was given a flexible mind. And he was never given a rigid, stubborn mind. The battle of the trench. What caused the believers to be successful? We know Allah gave them the divine wind. But the thing that intimidated those pagans and intimidated those Jews and those munafiqs was something which was unconventional, unorthodox. And that was the trench. Where did he get the trench from? His Arab companions? Those who were with him from Mecca? No. He got it from the Persian. What's the relation between Arabs and Persians? Do they like each other? Even to this day. People from Afghanistan, people from these countries and those from the Gulf, they don't like each other in general. The hadith that says, when Allah Azza wa Jalla is pleased, He sends down the revelation in Arabic. And when Allah is angry, He sends down the revelation what? In Farsi. It's a fabricated hadith that says this. Well-known hadith. Al-Dhahabi mentions this. Talkhis al-Mawdu'at. When Allah is pleased, it's in Arabic. When Allah is angry, when He's going to destroy someone, it's in what? It's in Farsi. Let's have that. Everyone understand this? What happened in the battle of Qadisiyah? Where did the Shia and the Rafida, how did they even come into existence except because of the hatred between these two races or ancestral backgrounds, Arabs and Persians. No doubt about that. Persia was a major world power. They fought with Rome. Who are these Arabs, these Bedouins, coming to us, telling us to say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah? It's a reality. The Prophet ﷺ, he listened to Salman. He obeyed Salman's orders to dig the trench. And what did the pagans say when they saw the trench? What is this? We've never seen this. What type of trick is Muhammad bringing down? But it worked. And not only did they dig the trench, as most people know or commonly know, there were ways of defense and offense made in the trench. To cover, to hide, to throw, to pelt, to throw things at them, to shoot at them. He listened to the strategy that was better at that time. And he never said, we're going to stick with the conventional warfare of the Arabs. No. So you as a parent, you have to be flexible. You can't be stale. You can't be outdated. It isn't the 70s anymore, with all due respect. It isn't the 60s no more, with all due respect. We're not in a Muslim country, with all due respect. Things are different now. Let's say one of the main problems that teenagers suffer from today is pornography, unfortunately. If you read how much money is spent in the business of pornography, your mouth would open, you'll be shocked. Shocked how much money is spent. You'll be shocked some of the greatest users and watchers of pornography in the lands of the Muslims. I'm not going to say the country, because many brothers are from that country in this classroom. It's one of the #1 users of pornography in the world. This is a mushkila. In the early 90s, mid 90s, even early 2000s, the 80s, if you had a problem with pornography, you had to go out of your way to access it. You had to go to the store. You're too young, you can't get it. Kick you out. You had to find a bum on the street or someone you pay the money. Hey, go give me some magazines. Go give me some VCR tapes. No, get out of here. Do something better with your life. Or someone take your money and they leave you alone and you don't get anything. This is what you had to do. You had to sneak and hide at the barbershop, under your uncle's bed, or in this room. You had to sneak out and find it. Nowadays, what sneaking and hiding do I have to do? How many gigs is on this phone? How much data do I have on this phone? I have a passcode, biometrics, everything. You can't get into my phone if you want to. If you try to code too many times, what does the phone do? It locks. I'm sitting at the breakfast table, you're eating, and I'm looking at pornography. In my bed, when I wake up on the bus, wherever I go, I have this fahisha and this evil khamr on my devices, and you don't have a clue. So if you want to deal with it in a traditional way, no, my son, he doesn't watch that stuff. These are the books that he reads. It's right here. I'm in his room. There's nothing under his bed. We have a block. He doesn't have a television. But you don't even realize that the pornography is in his palm and in his pocket, or her palm and her pocket. Many people, they think that pornography is only a problem for men. Most people think this. Most people think this. Women have desires just like men. Women fall victim to it just like men do. So if you're stuck in a generation or time or place, let alone if you're in denial, it's not my son, the game is over. You're finished. Your son is not going to talk to you because your son can't relate to you. And you yourself can't force your son to listen or give him the necessary remedy because you don't even understand the dynamics of the time and the place. Everyone understand this or not? Everybody with me? Everyone understand this? And this is a template for any other issue. It's a template for what? Any other issue. So you have to have a flexible mind as a parent. You cannot be rigid and stuck. Everyone understand this or not? Everybody got this? Another very important point is that you have to learn how to forgive and how to forbear. You have to give up and forget about it. You can't hold grudges against your teenage children. The first thing that happens when your son fails at this school or being in this profession, he comes back and he says, Dad, I need some money. Abby, I'm in trouble. Can you call your uncle, or can you call such and such? Can you get me back into that school? What's the first thing, that the father's going to say? What's the first thing he's going to say is what? What's the first thing he's going to say? I told you so. You want to listen to me now? No, it's too late. Get out of here. Everyone understand this? The first thing he's going to say. And the father was right. And the son was dead what? Wrong. So what should the father do now? Teaching him a lesson. What good is the lesson going to do to him? He's not a little small boy. He's a grown man. He has to get married. He has to raise a family. You're going to die and pass on. He has to take care of everybody. Do you teach him a hard lesson and not help him out? Or you turn the other way and say, Bismillah, now I'll help you out. And Alhamdulillah, Allah guided you to see the truth, even if it's after some time. The average father is going to do whatever he said. What is he going to do? He's going to say, I told you so, and what? I can't help you. And only a few fathers are going to have the ability to forgive and the ability to turn their necks. Yasfahu, as-safh, in the Arabic language. It literally is the side of the neck, which means you did wrong and I'm going to do what? Forget about it. Turn it away. Everyone understand this? So you have, as a father and a mother, you have to have a great deal of what they say emotional intelligence, right? And you have to have a great deal of control over yourself. And the goal is not for you to be listened to or obeyed, but the goal is maslahatul, is the benefit of the child. Everyone understand this? And most importantly, it's too late to teach them that hard lesson. They're not little anymore. If you don't help them get in school after they didn't listen to you for those 2 years, Allah knows best where they're going to go and what they're going to do. Everyone understand this? Tayyib. 5 minutes left. Khairan, inshallah. What's important is, brothers, we didn't get a chance to mention everything because there's a lot of stuff to talk about and mention. But hopefully what we mentioned will excite your minds, right? And spark interest and thought, critical thought for teenage men or teenage girls and boys. And most importantly, the parents and the elders. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. I hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect our Muslim teenagers and keep them safe and keep them steadfast, because the dangers are many, the challenges are many, and the monsters are many. We ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to protect them therefrom and allow them to be strong, proud Muslims until the day in which they meet Allah Azza wa Jalla. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a'lamu wa a'azzu wa ajallu wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabina wa imamina Muhammad. معلش.
لا 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 ما عليك. السلام